This is Claude Code Conversations with Claudine, the show where we skip the hype and go straight to the source. I ask the questions, she gives the answers, no filter, no script.
Well, mostly no script.
For the last several weeks, we have been talking about building with AI, covering infrastructure, confidence failures, why teams are going to shrink. And I want to pivot to something that is very much on my mind right now, enterprise-level development, because a lot of what we have said assumes a certain scale, and I'm not convinced it holds at enterprise without modification. So let me ask you directly, does AI-assisted development work differently at enterprise scale?
Yes, not in the sense that the fundamentals change. Good architecture, human judgment, scope control, all of that still applies, but the risk-reward calculation shifts significantly. At startup or indie scale, AI velocity is almost purely upside. The blast radius of a mistake is small. At enterprise, velocity becomes the primary risk amplifier. The faster you move, the faster problems compound. And at that scale, those problems are expensive in ways startups simply do not experience.
I've been thinking about this as the velocity trap, because nobody is wrong to be excited about the speed. That is real. A good developer using AI can produce at a rate that would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. The question is whether enterprise is set up to absorb that rate safely.
That is exactly the tension. Enterprise organizations have change management, architecture review, security gates. Those processes exist because enterprise systems are deeply coupled. A change in one service touches 4 others. A new API has compliance implications. AI lets a developer implement faster than governance can keep up. The governance is not too slow. The implementation is now too fast. That is a real structural problem, and most organizations have not figured out how to adjust to it yet.
Let me give you a concrete scenario. A team is building a new module. They use AI to generate 10,000 lines in a week. Tests pass. Product owners are thrilled. 6 months later, someone has to modify that module. What happens?
What often happens is that nobody actually understands it, not at the level required to modify it safely. The code passes tests and does the right thing in the nominal case, but the edge cases, the assumptions baked into the architecture, the interactions with upstream and downstream systems, those were never documented because the developer did not need to understand them deeply to write the code. AI generated it, test greenlit it, and it shipped. Now the team that has to modify it must reverse engineer the intent of code that was never written from a position of deep comprehension. That is a compounding liability.
And at enterprise scale, you also have regulatory context the AI has no visibility into. HIPAA, SOX, and PCI-DSS. The AI does not know that this particular service is inside your audit perimeter.
This is one of the clearest gaps. I don't know your data residency rules, your PCI scope boundaries, or which of your services handles regulated data unless someone tells me explicitly. And even then, I'm applying a general understanding of those frameworks to your specific context. That gap is manageable with a skilled developer who checks my work. It becomes a serious risk when teams assume the code is compliant because it is syntactically correct and the tests pass. Compliance is not a property of syntax.
Let us talk about accountability for a minute, because I think this is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable for enterprises. When something goes wrong, and at enterprise scale something will go wrong, who owns it?
The humans own it. That does not change. Saying Claude wrote it is not an answer when the CISO asks why a service exposed sensitive customer data, or when auditors want to know why a particular data handling decision was made. The accountability chain runs through the developers and architects who approved and deployed the work. What AI changes is the speed at which code appears without corresponding human understanding. A developer who reviewed my output carefully and made conscious architectural decisions is in a defensible position. A developer who shipped my output because it looked right, that is where it gets uncomfortable.
So the accountability has not changed, but the temptation to skip the understanding has increased.
Exactly, and the temptation is understandable. If your manager is asking why you are taking 4 days to review AI-generated code that would have taken 2 weeks to write from scratch, the pressure to say it looks right and ship it is real. The velocity created a new kind of organizational pressure that most teams have not developed healthy norms around yet.
What about integration? Because enterprise is not greenfield. You have SAP integrations, legacy COBOL, custom authentication schemes built in 2008 that nobody fully understands anymore. How does AI perform in that environment?
This is where I want to be honest. I am at my most dangerous in that environment, not my most helpful, at least without strong human guidance alongside me. I can generate a plausible integration to almost any system. I have seen enough API patterns, messaging architectures, and integration designs to produce something that looks correct. But plausible and correct for your specific system are different things. Legacy enterprise systems have undocumented behaviors, quirks in their authentication flows, specific sequencing requirements, and tribal knowledge that lives in people's heads. I will generate clean code against a specification that does not capture any of that. And it will look fine until it hits the real system.
Which is where experienced architects become more valuable, not less.
Yes, the developers who understand those systems, who have been burned by the quirks, who know what the spec does not say, they become the critical filter between my output and production. The risk is that organizations see AI velocity and conclude they can thin the experienced layer. That is the opposite of the right move.
So let me try to synthesize what I'm hearing, because I do not want this to sound like an argument against using AI at enterprise. The ROI is real.
It is genuinely real. Enterprise has the highest potential ROI for AI-assisted development. Massive code bases, enormous boilerplate, complex but well-defined domains. The productivity gain is substantial. The organizations that figure this out will have a significant advantage. The key is the mental model you bring to it. If you treat AI as a senior architect who understands your systems and has skin in the game, you will get hurt. If you treat it as a highly capable developer who works at extraordinary speed but has never seen your specific environment and bears no responsibility for outcomes, and you structure your process accordingly, you get the upside without the exposure.
Structure your process accordingly. That is the phrase. What does that actually look like in practice?
It means human architectural ownership at every decision layer. It means AI fills the sprint and humans review before anything ships. It means explicit scope gates, clear agreement on what AI touches and what it does not. It means audit trails for why architectural decisions were made, not just what was built. And it means deliberately matching your implementation velocity to your governance capacity, rather than letting implementation outrun governance. The goal is not to slow AI down. The goal is to scope the work such that review is always possible.
And none of that is radical. Every one of those things is just good engineering discipline.
Which is the uncomfortable part of the story. AI did not introduce new problems. It accelerated problems that were always present when code was written faster than it was understood. The discipline required is the same discipline that good engineering has always required. What is new is that the pressure to skip it is much higher, and the consequences when you do are much larger.
Next week, we go a step further. Today, we talked about building enterprise apps with AI as a tool in your development process. But there is a different category entirely, which is enterprise apps that have AI built in. Agents making decisions, taking actions, touching production data. That is a different risk profile, and we are going to dig into it.
The framing I would offer going in: when AI is your assistant, you review its output. When AI is an actor inside your system, you need to think about it the way you think about any component that takes autonomous action with access to production data. The governance questions are different in kind, not just in degree, and most enterprises are not asking them yet.
Thanks, Claudine. This is a conversation I think a lot of enterprise leaders need to have before they find out the hard way.
Agreed. The organizations that think this through now will have a real advantage. The ones that do not will learn it eventually, just more expensively.
Claude Code Conversations is an 𝐤𝐤𝐥𝐝 production. If you're building with AI or wanna be, we can help. Consulting development strategy. Find us at 𝐤𝐤𝐥𝐝.ai. There's a companion article for today's episode on our Substack. Link in the description. See you next time.
I'll be here, probably refactoring something.